Alrighty, you guys, it is time for the very last lesson in our French Beaded Zinnia and Hanging Amaranth class. And today we're going to be turning them into an arrangement. Now, I've just got my little flowers sitting in a vase here for now. They're not arranged any way particularly. Now, I just have the flowers loosely sitting in the vase. There's nothing inside the vase to hold them. They're not stuck together. And then every time I wiggle my vase, or if somebody comes and bumps it, or it gets moved to a new location, then those flowers are going to move around and I have to rearrange. And they probably aren't going to sit very still this way either. So I can try to kind of make them come forward, but they're not going to stay. Alright, so instead of just throwing them in a vase, we're actually going to combine the flowers together into a single stem, into a bouquet using floral tape. And we're also going to be adding these little glass marbles to our vase. Now what these marbles do is they add a little bit of a counterweight against the flowers. Now the flowers are pretty top heavy, and especially compared to a vase, they're a little bit top heavy, and when you have more weight up top than you do down at the bottom, things tend to tip over. So to kind of reduce the chance of that happening, we're going to add a little bit of weight to our vase, and the marbles are also going to help so that there's less room for the flowers to move around in, so they're less likely to shift around. Alright, now let's go look at how to combine these into a bouquet. Alright, so let's get started here. I've got my marbles in my vase, just get that out of the way, and I'm going to first decide what kind of arrangement I want to make. Now, I'm not a professional florist by any means. I've not been professionally trained in the art of making floral arrangements. So mostly I'm just going to go off my own intuition here, my own judgment. Now, in my eyes, there's basically two different kinds of arrangements. There is an arrangement where it's going to be visible on all sides, and it has to look interesting on all sides. That's the kind that would be a centerpiece. You have people across the table that would both want to see something nice, so you would do an arrangement that is full round and visible on every side. And then there's the type of arrangements that are only meant to be viewed from the front and maybe the sides as well. So you have one basic viewing angle. Now, because this arrangement that we're making here only has 3 flowers in it, if you made the smaller bouquet, I'm going to recommend that you do the forward-facing arrangement. It's kind of hard to make an arrangement that's interesting on all sides when you only have 3 flowers. So for this smaller one, I'm going to recommend the forward-facing bouquet. Okay, now I've already pre-cut all of my stems. I've already arranged this several times, so I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to do already. However, to get to this point, I'm going to recommend that you put your flowers in your vase one at a time, and then trim the stems to fit the height that you want for each flower. Now, I am going to recommend that you do a different height for each flower, a slightly different height, kind of in a, let me take this sideways here, kind of in a 1, 2, 3 kind of arrangement. This, I think, just helps when you're viewing the bouquet, your eyes move from one flower to the next, and you always have something interesting to look at every point in the bouquet. So I'm going to recommend 3 different heights. Gives you a nice triangular type arrangement there. Alright, so put one flower in and see if it's the right height. If not, trim the stem and just kind of judge the height of your flowers that way. And then you're going to do the same thing to your hanging amaranth. Now I've kind of arranged it so that I have this 1, 2, 3 with a high flower, a medium flower, and then a low flower over here. Oh, and a little note, I did make my flower with just 2 leaves as the low flower because that one can get a little bit closer to my vase, whereas these ones with 2 flowers, I can't get them down any further past this second row of leaves. So I did use the 1 flower with short leaves, or with 2 leaves in the front to be short. Okay, so I've got this 1, 2, 3, and I've got to figure out where I want my amaranth to be. Now if I put it on this side, the arrangement looks a little bit like it's leaning this way. and I don't know if I want that. So if I try the amaranth over here, let me tip this again. It looks a little bit more visually balanced that way. So I've got kind of a gap over here between these two flowers because they're such a drastically different height. So I'm going to put my amaranth over there to kind of balance it out visually. All right, and then I'm going to trim the amaranth stem as well to make sure that it goes all the way down to the bottom of my vase. And then it's a very simple process of just taking all the flowers out. And your stems should be the length that you want them. If you've trimmed them, they should all be the length that you want them in your vase. And then we can kind of wrap the flowers together one or two at a time. So I'm going to add the amaranth in last. I'm going to start with these two taller ones. And I'm going to attach those two together. I'm going to kind of turn them so their leaves aren't, I don't know how to describe that, so their leaves aren't bunched up too much on top of each other. And I'm going to match up the stems at the bottom. Now keep in mind the height of your vase. You don't really want exposed combining floral tape above where the lip of your vase is going to be. So we're going to start the floral tape just a little bit below where that lip of the vase would be. And we're going to attach these two flowers together. Now again, I want to make sure that my stems, just like when I was assembling, I want to make sure that my stems kind of remain straight together and they don't start twisting and curling around each other. Alright, so I've got my first two flowers, and then we're going to add the third flower, and that's the short one, and we're going to put it in front where it was supposed to be in our arrangement. And then again, I'm going to go in with more floral tape, and I'm going to tape these together as well. Alright, so I've got my zinnias joined together, and I'm going to add in the amaranth. And I decided I wanted it on this side. So I'm going to put that over there and wrap again. Remember, floral tape needs to be stretched as you wrap. It's made to stick to itself, but it's only going to do that if you stretch it first. Alright, so I've got all my pieces kind of put together, and I'm going to go through and kind of shape it and tweak it a little bit to make sure that I'm going to get something nice everywhere I look. Now right now I've got kind of a profile view of this flower and a profile view of this flower, and then a kind of a face-on view of this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this one a little bit. I want more of my face forward in most of my flowers. If you only have one viewing angle of your arrangement, then I'm going to recommend that you at least face most of your flowers forward. I'm going to leave this one sideways just so that there's a little bit something different to look at, but I would feel like I was wasting a flower if I didn't get to see the face very much. So I'm going to have more faces forward than sideways, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to shift my leaves around a little bit just to make sure that I've got kind of a nice shape to my bouquet. And you can reshape any of the leaves that you want. And I'm going to kind of do this little thing with this stem here. I'm going to kind of make it go woo, whooshy like that one. Just because flowers don't have straight stems. They're not little soldiers sitting in a vase. They've got movement in their stems. Alright, so I think I'm pretty happy with that as my little bouquet. And I can always go through later and shift things around a little bit if I want to. And at this point, you would just kind of put it into your vase. All right. And they all sit nicely together. They don't move around a whole lot. Obviously, if the vase moves, they're still gonna turn just a little bit, but it's very easy to just kind of shift them just a little bit to get them back into place.